Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Game Drain. My name is Matt, and I do like video games. And in today's video, I've got a little bit of a review here for you. Resident Evil Requiem came out last month. I played it, I beat it, I certainly have some thoughts about it. That's exactly what we're talking about in today's video. So let's go ahead and get into it. And also, let me just say, I haven't until last month played a Resident Evil game. That's not to say I haven't bought them. I bought Resident Evil 2 Remake, Resident Evil 3 Remake, Resident Evil 4 Remake. I bought Village. I bought Resident Evil 9. That was a day one purchase for me. I pre ordered it. But until last month, I beat Resident Evil Village last month leading up to Requiem. And after I beat Requiem, I went back and played Resident Evil 4 Remake and beat that. But before this last month, I had never really played a Resident Evil game. And also, quite frankly, Resident Evil Village and Resident Evil 4 Remake are not relevant in this video because we are talking about Resident Evil Requiem. So let's go ahead and get into it. And I figure the first thing we'll start with in this review is a thing that most people are going to see when they boot the game up for the first time. And that is, how does the game look? How are the graphics of this game? From the minute you step into the game, they did a really good job putting you in a situation immediately in a game where you can just kind of look around and appreciate how good the game looks. Because that scene where you're Grace and you're just standing there with your umbrella in the middle of all this rain with people walking past you on the street, and you can just look around and see all the ray tracing and reflections and the cars and stuff like that, it looks really, really good. Now, for me personally, I was playing it on PC, and my PC is fairly good. Like, I struggle or hesitate to say that my PC is top end because there's motherfuckers out there with like 5090s and shit with like supercomputers. I've got a really good PC. It's not that. I have a 13700K and a 9070 XT, so it's pretty damn good, but it's not the top end. But I was running pretty much max settings across the board, minus path tracing because that is locked to NVIDIA GPUs at the moment, and quite frankly, I'm not entirely sure the 9070 XT could handle that anyway. But even from what I saw on like console footage of the game, it looked really good on just about everything, down to like even the Nintendo Switch 2, which was just genuinely impressive, honestly. So if you've got a nice new PC or a console or a new TV or monitor, I just got an OLED monitor. If you got something new and shiny and you want to show off a really good looking game that also happens to be pretty fun, Resident Evil Requiem is definitely a pretty good choice. And that, the graphics, lead us into performance, because usually games with these amazing graphics come at the cost of some performance. Well, fortunately, with the RE engine, I don't know what kind of wizardry they have going on, because there are examples of the RE engine not working the best, quite frankly. You look at a game like Dragon's Dogma 2, using the RE engine, it looks really good. The RE engine just looks amazing, honestly. But it did struggle with performance, and even now, over a year after launch, over 2 years after launch, it still kind of struggles with performance, if we're being honest. Now, as far as for Resident Evil, these games and this engine usually run very, very well, and this game is no exception to that. Like I said, I ran the game on PC. I had very minimal issues, if any at all, honestly. I was sticking around 100 to 120 plus FPS. Like 100 was kind of on the low side. Like in the more demanding scenes, I was at about 100 FPS. Playing at 1440p. Again, my PC being a 13700K and a 9070 XT. But I had no complaints whatsoever. I played at max settings, ray tracing all the way up, minus path tracing, like I mentioned before, and the game ran perfectly fine. And even on consoles, from what I've seen, I haven't played it on console, but from what I've seen on consoles, performance is much the same. Very, very good. Every console, as far as I'm aware, offers a 60 FPS mode, which is impressive, all the way down to a Nintendo Switch 2, which, again, very impressive. But all in all, I think if you're worried about performance issues with this game, you really don't need to worry at all. Now, getting into kind of the nitty gritty here, is the game scary? And I'll also preface this by saying I'm not like a big horror fan. I didn't grow up watching scary movies. I didn't grow up playing horror games. I don't absorb much of that media. Like the first horror game that I actually sat down and played, like completely blind, didn't know anything that was going to happen at all, was Dead Space 1. And that was in like 2022 and Xbox backwards compatibility. So I played that game very late. I played Dead Space 1 and 2, loved them. That was my intro to horror games. And then most recently, before these Resident Evil games, I played Chronos: The New Dawn. Also an amazing game, by the way. But here we are with Resident Evil. Like I said, never really played much of the series. I'm hopping, and this is my first Resident Evil game, day one, that I'm playing. And is the game scary? I guess it depends on who you ask. For me personally, there are definitely some scary moments in the game, but I almost hesitate to call them scary as much as they're just tense. They're just very tense moments with a lot of tension. It's not so much like horror jump scare traditional type of fear or anything. I also think it's kind of a testament to how well they made the game and how well they paced the game, and that the game is very much a blend of action and horror. And there's two characters. One of them is the action character, one of them is the horror character. Action is Leon Kennedy, and the horror element is definitely Grace's character. Because when you're Grace, you're just kind of like, you feel a little bit helpless, honestly. I mean, you have a weapon, you can kill zombies, you can do that. But like when you're Leon Kennedy, you feel unstoppable. You feel like Max Payne when you're Leon Kennedy. It feels like you're John Wick sometimes. Like I'm looking for enemies to kill when I'm Leon Kennedy. When I'm Grace, I'm like, I'm trying to avoid anything and everything at all costs. Like playing as Leon, there really is no scary part in the game, honestly. You feel pretty much unstoppable playing as Leon. As Grace, there are definitely some scary parts, a couple jump scares here and there. For the most part, though, it's more so just tension as opposed to like all out terror 110% of the time. And I can confidently say, as someone who, like I said, I don't have much experience or much comfortability with the horror genres of games, movies, TV, entertainment, whatever you want to call it. I just don't have too much comfortability with that genre. And as someone who's coming into this game like that, I didn't feel overwhelmed at any point. Like I never got so scared where I was like, I gotta stop playing. I need to take a break. I never felt that at all. In fact, I kind of felt the opposite many times where it was like, that was so damn awesome that I just need to keep playing. Now we're going to talk a little bit about the gameplay. So how's the gameplay? I mean, and this is where things really take off because the gameplay in this game is honestly pretty top tier. Like it's pretty damn awesome. And I should preface this by acknowledging that when I say that the gameplay is top tier, I'm really just talking about Leon Kennedy sequences. And that's not to say that it isn't fun or interesting to play as Grace, but also Grace isn't walking around roundhouse kicking zombies in the fucking head or blowing them apart with a shotgun or a high-powered revolver. But as far as playing as Leon, not only do the guns feel great, but you've also got a pretty good selection of them, which is nice. I mean, obviously that's a good thing. Though as for my favorite weapon in the game, there was definitely something very, very satisfying about being swarmed, like completely swarmed by a big group of zombies and then completely clearing them out with like a few trigger pulls of a shotgun. That was probably my favorite thing in the game. And now you might be asking, well, how is the story? And I'm not going to lie, I don't have much knowledge about Resident Evil stories or anything or characters. I know who Leon Kennedy is. I know we played as Leon Kennedy, and I know we played as Grace. Grace and Leon Kennedy both have their own stories in this game. They're intertwined pretty damn well. I have no complaints about that. As far as the horror games I played, I'm not going to give any spoilers here, but as far as the horror games I've played, I thought the story was completely fine. I don't think it's the strongest story I've ever played, but it was pretty damn good, all things considered. And then adding that to just the chaos that is this game in a really good way. I mean, it only elevated the game, quite frankly. So I'm not going to give any spoilers, but I think you guys will probably like the story, especially if you're somebody who likes Resident Evil already anyway. You know, odds are good you'll probably like the story. I mean, it got my attention as someone who doesn't care about Resident Evil, so it must be doing something right. But all in all, what's the verdict on this game? I mean, I kind of stink at giving games like a rating 1 through 10 or like a 5 out of 5 or whatever. Like, I kind of stink at this. I hesitate to give games a 10 out of 10 only because there's only one game I've ever given a 10 out of 10, and that's Skyrim, because it's my favorite game of all time. So I find that when I really, really enjoy a game, I usually end up giving it like an 8 or a 9. But I think Resident Evil Requiem falls in that 9 category. I think it was good enough to get there, quite frankly. I have Like I said, very limited experience with the horror genre in terms of video games. But Dead Space 2 is my favorite horror game. And I think that Resident Evil Requiem comes pretty damn close to Dead Space 2, which you guys don't know me, but I love Dead Space 2. That's high praise coming from me. Trust me. But I want to hear from you guys in the comments. If you played the game, what do you think about the game? I mean, if you haven't played the game and you're watching this as someone who hasn't really played Resident Evil, because I know that's kind of how I'm going to angle this video, is I've never really played Resident Evil. This is kind of my first experience with Resident Evil. And if you're someone like that, I have no issue recommending this game to you. It's definitely worth checking out. Maybe even if you want to wait for it on a sale and you're not sure, that's totally fine as well, but it is worth checking out at the very least. But like I said, leave in the comments what are your thoughts on the game, what do you think of the video. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video and you want to see more content like it, because I'm going to be doing a couple more reviews and different things here on the channel, so look forward to that. Cozy Beluga, the wonderful Cozy Beluga, will also be making content here on this channel. I know she said she's working on a video, so look forward to that at some point in the future. And then, like I said, I'll be making more content here as well. But guys, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.